South Africa's political climate is once again heating up, and at the center of the storm is President Cyril Ramaphosa. With the 2026 general elections drawing closer, divisions within the African National Congress, ANC, are resurfacing, particularly around the contentious issue of land reform. A growing faction within the ANC, supported by vocal ministers and senior party leaders, is pressing Ramaphosa to accelerate land expropriation without compensation, a promise the ruling party has long dangled before the electorate but has repeatedly failed to deliver in concrete terms. For years, land expropriation has been both a rallying cry and a political burden for the ANC. The promise of returning land to the dispossessed majority has fueled expectations since the dawn of democracy in 1994. However, nearly 3 decades later, progress has been painstakingly slow. The land question remains one of the most divisive and emotionally charged issues in South Africa's political discourse, often intersecting with broader debates about inequality, economic growth, and national identity. Now, as the ANC stares down an increasingly uncertain electoral future, the pressure to act has never been greater. According to party insiders, several ANC ministers are warning that unless the government makes tangible progress on land expropriation before the next election, the ruling party risks losing support among its traditional voter base. These ministers argue that opposition parties, particularly the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, are gaining traction precisely because they have positioned themselves as the true champions of radical land reform. Some have gone as far as to suggest that the ANC's hesitation on the issue has weakened its credibility, making it appear indecisive and overly cautious. In closed-door meetings, ministers have reportedly urged Ramaphosa to push through a legislative framework that would allow the state to expropriate land without compensation in select cases, framing it as both a moral obligation and a political necessity. One senior figure within the party was quoted as saying, "If we cannot deliver on land, we cannot speak of liberation. The people are tired of promises. They want action, and if the ANC cannot act, they will look elsewhere." For President Ramaphosa, however, the issue is far more complicated than many of his critics within the party acknowledge. While he recognizes the symbolic and political weight of land reform, he also understands the economic risks associated with aggressive expropriation policies. South Africa's economy is already under severe strain, with sluggish growth, soaring unemployment, and declining investor confidence. A radical move on land could send further shockwaves through markets, deter investment, and weaken an already fragile economy. Ramaphosa has tried to position himself as a reformist leader who balances transformation with stability. His administration has repeatedly emphasized that land reform must be conducted in a way that is legal, transparent, and economically sustainable. Yet this measured approach has left him vulnerable to criticism from both sides. Radicals within the ANC and the EFF accuse him of being too slow, while business leaders and opposition parties such as the DA warn that even moderate expropriation plans risk damaging property rights and undermining economic growth. The EFF, led by Julius Malema, continues to be the loudest voice pushing for immediate and uncompensated land redistribution. The party has skillfully used the ANC's delays to bolster its image as the uncompromising alternative for frustrated South Africans. Malema has repeatedly accused Ramaphosa of betraying the people and bowing to the interests of the elite and big business. As the 2026 elections approach, the EFF is expected to weaponize the land issue on the campaign trail, arguing that the ANC has had decades to resolve it but has failed. This strategy poses a serious threat to the ANC's ability to retain its dominance, especially in provinces where land dispossession remains a deeply personal and painful reality. Analysts warn that a rushed or poorly executed land reform policy could have devastating consequences. Agricultural production, food security, and investor confidence all hang in the balance. South Africa has already witnessed the chaos that can follow radical land redistribution, with Zimbabwe often cited as a cautionary tale. Ramaphosa himself has been keen to stress that South Africa will not follow the same path, emphasizing the need for an orderly process. Yet, the challenge lies in satisfying both the demands of the electorate and the realities of the economy. With ANC ministers intensifying calls for faster action, the president is caught in a near impossible position: delay further and risk losing votes, or act boldly and risk economic instability. The debate over land expropriation is symptomatic of a broader crisis within the ANC. Once united under the banner of liberation, the party now faces deep internal divisions, not only on land but also on corruption, governance, and the direction of economic policy. For many observers, the current pressure on Ramaphosa reflects a growing desperation within the ANC to hold on to power in the face of declining popularity. With the 2026 elections looming, the land issue could become the deciding factor. If Ramaphosa manages to craft a policy that balances justice with stability, he could strengthen both his leadership and the ANC's standing. But if he falters, the fallout could be catastrophic, opening the door for opposition parties to claim ground that the ANC has held for decades. President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership is now being tested like never before. The call for land expropriation without compensation is no longer a distant political slogan, it is an urgent demand being made by his own ministers, his electorate, and his rivals. The months ahead will be critical, as Ramaphosa tries to navigate this political minefield. Whether he chooses caution or radical action, one thing is clear: the land question will be at the heart of South Africa's political battles leading into the 2026 elections. For the ANC, it is not just about land, it is about survival.